In today's video, we are taking a look at one of the favourites for this year's World's Strongest Man, the current Arnold Strongman Classic winner, Mitch Hooper. So Auntie Liz, last year we did a video on Mitch Hooper and we really didn't know an awful lot about this guy.
It was hard work. We had nothing. He'd done no international competitions. All we had was some numbers from Static Monster and some training videos, which was quite useless.
Yeah, kind of a few videos that he'd posted himself. It was this cocky, bold guy that thought he was a big deal or something. And it turns out he was actually pretty good.
Yeah. But all your assumptions were correct, right? No, we love Mitch.
Yeah, we've become very good friends with Mitch over the last year. It feels like longer than a year.
It feels like a lot longer, yeah.
And he is an incredible athlete, incredible human, really, but just one of those freaky athletes that is capable of extreme things.
Yeah.
And he is going to go to World's Strongest Man this year as one of the favourites. I've said in a few videos now, I believe there's 5, potentially 6 guys that could win World's Strongest Man this year. Mitch Hooper is definitely in that category. And, you know, last year's Worlds, he surprised everyone. He won his heat, beating Brian Shaw, made the final, ended up 8th in this first ever international. And since then, the progress has been unbelievable.
So before you ruin all my stats and facts, let's get into them. And even though it's only been a year, God, we've got some great stats and facts about Mitch. So this year, Mitch is obviously returning for his second appearance at the World's Strongest Man. And not only was it his first Worlds last year, it was his first international competition full stop. And he caused quite the upset in the heats when he beat Brian Shaw. And he is the first man to do so since 2009. And since that debut performance, Mitch has competed in 8 more international competitions and he has podiumed at every single one of them. So his incredible run of success includes 2nd place at the Giants Live Strongman Classic, 2nd place at the Giants Live World Open, 3rd place at the Shaw Classic, 1st place at the Arnold UK, his first international win, 1st place at the Giants Live World Tour Final, 3rd place at the Rogue Invitational, and then this year he's been 1st place at Australia's Strongest International, and most recently, obviously, 1st place at the Arnold Strongman Classic, which is arguably the 2nd biggest competition in the world.
It's quite a year he's had.
It's a hell of it. He's had like a whole career in 1 year. Did you know what I mean? Any strongman,
anyone would be over the moon to have done what he's done so far. And, you know, we're talking a year into his career. To have that consistency as well, you know, he's such a new athlete to the sport. And the real special thing with Mitch is that there is no weakness. And he's very, very quick at learning.
Yes.
You know, you kind of tell him something once and it sinks in, and he kind of has this ability to just improve very, very quickly. And we're seeing that with the performances. He's not necessarily the best at you know, a lot of these events.
Yeah. But
he's not bad at any of them.
No.
And we're going to go deeper into the events in a second. I don't believe these events this year at Worlds are the best set of events for Mitch.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any events you can put in there where you kind of disregard Mitch as a contender.
No, there's nothing. There's no 6 events you could put together that would say Mitch definitely isn't winning.
So as you guys know by now, we're starting off with the loading race, and this is an event that Mitch is very, very good at. Won the loading at Worlds last year. He's done very well in competitions at loading. He's fast, he's athletic, he's explosive. All the attributes needed to be good at loading.
Then on to the deadlift machine, and it's so interesting, and he's mentioned this several times himself. He was kind of recognised for his deadlifting ability, but in the first part of his, 12 months in Strongman, he lost more points on the deadlift than anything else. But I think the Arnold this year, we really, really saw that improvement in the strength in his lockout.
Yeah, his deadlift's been improving kind of nice and steadily over the whole of the year. And, you know, it's easy to look good in your own gym. And
of course.
It's when you go up against the best guys, you know, month on month, competition on competition, and you can compare yourself to the best. And, you know, he's had to go against some monster deadlifters, absolute monsters, and he's held his own. And now he's starting to kind of like creep up and beat those guys. Yeah. We're seeing that progress, and this is an event, again, I think he can win.
Now, I think the log ladder suits Mitch perfectly, and I think he really demonstrated that in the Rogue Invitational where he did. It was only 3 reps on the same log, but he just He got it so right, didn't he? He didn't Viper press, but he held on to the log. He thinks about everything, and he's so fast.
Yeah, well, we do discuss kind of tactics on how to do strongman events, and that's something that I think I excel at in terms of understanding the best way of kind of approaching an event. And an event like a log ladder, you don't need the most top end strength. No. You need to get through the reps as quick as possible. And depending on your ability, that might be I get through 3 as quick as possible, because some guys will just plod through thinking that they can do 4 and they might make a mistake on 4. Mitch is in a very nice position where he's strong enough to do all the logs, and it's about getting through them as quick as possible. So, it comes down to speed. He can just be faster than a guy that might beat him for a 1 rep max.
Yeah, and I think he will be. Looking at people's training videos, just Mitch is so rapid.
I actually think the 2 best guys at this event are Mitch and Kiliashkovsky.
Agreed.
And if we were talking about a log for max, I wouldn't say that.
No, you'd
put like a Bobby Thompson or a Trey or a Luke Stoltman.
Yeah.
They're the kind of strongest when it comes, or Graham Hicks. All those guys unbelievably strong when we're talking about 1 rep. But this is a slightly different event, and it's understanding how to approach that. Some people like to take their time, and they kind of need to be thinking about it. Someone like Brian Shaw, he's very methodical.
Can't be like that in a race, though, can you?
Exactly. So it's just understanding how you approach that in training makes a big difference.
And then the Conan Circle, and now while we haven't seen him do this event, we have seen him win the Husafel sandbag carry for distance at the Rogue Invitational. And he's just, and this is a phrase I've taken from you because I like it, he's got a good engine, hasn't he?
He does have a good engine. He's very fit and conditioned for a strength athlete. Former marathon runner. These type of events suit him down to the ground, and it's another event he should score big points on.
Next is the kettlebell throw, and earlier you said something interesting, and I think it's demonstrated with his results here. So you said how fast he learns. Now, he didn't do so great on the kettlebell throw, the bag over bar at the Shore Classic, but then the next time we saw him in competition, and the weights are very similar, granted at the Shore Classic it was a bit higher, but Mitch had improved massively, and he came second on it at the Arnold UK.
Yeah, there was probably a couple of better throwers at the Shore Classic, but he's certainly made progress. And, I'm lucky enough that I see this progress week on week when he sends videos and stuff. But he's built well for throwing. So it was more a technical issue than necessarily a power issue. And throwing is one of those events, it's very easy to make a mistake on. So if there is an event he might lose some points on, it would be this. But he's become so consistent at performing that I really can't see it. And I think the nice thing for Mitch by this point, he's already had 4 really good events. You're going into a 5th event that
it's not going to panic.
You can start to, if you're in a good position, take a bit of pressure off yourself. So you get to go towards the end, you can see what other athletes do, and that's a big advantage on throwing. If you have to go out first, you really have to just go for broke.
Yeah.
Whereas if he's in a good position, he'll see what other people have done. He might see people have made mistakes, and then he can think, okay, I don't need to rush. I can just take my time and throw these and make sure they go over. Whereas if people put in blistering times, then the pressure will build, and he'll think, I need to kind of, actually go for it. So the tactics will change as the competition evolves. And that's something, again, he's become very good at. He knows now, okay, if he's got that opportunity to back off and start thinking about the final, he will do. But if needed, he can push on as well.
But best case scenario, you don't have to do them at all. And we saw that last year when there were athletes that didn't need to do the wrecking ball.
That would be... It would come down to groups, but it's one of those, we talked about tactics evolve depending on how the competition's going. World's Strongest Man is 2 competitions. You've got the heats, then it's all reset and you go from the final. And for most of the top guys, they want to get to the final, expending as little energy as possible.
Yeah, of course. And then we've got the stone off, and I do feel like it's very unlikely we're going to see Mitch in a stone off scenario. If he is, I think he'll be with the 2nd place advantage. And he's great at stones, and I think a stone off like this, I'd be more comfortable watching him do that than I would an actual stone run.
His stones have improved loads as well, and to be honest, he's very good at lifting heavy stones.
Yeah.
His transition is where we've kind of worked on to get better at, and that's something we've kind of worked on for the final, and we're seeing good progress there. But he's always been able to lift big stones.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that worst case he goes in 2nd place, so he's going to get that advantage going into the stones. But honestly, I think Mitch makes the final without having to do them.
I think so too.
So the events of the final are a little more interesting because there's a few events here that he's not done before, starting off with a Fingal's finger. Now this could be an interesting one. His first training session on it, he's built himself a really heavy finger and he's ended up breaking it.
Oh, good. Great.
So this is a little bit of an unknown. It's something that I would like a bit more practice on, and obviously he's going to practice more between now and World's Strongest Man.
Yeah.
But having never done it before, there's just a few technical things that we're trying to work on. Now, like I said, he improves quickly, so I'm expecting by the time Worlds to come round, he'll be prepared for it. But if there is an event that I think he drops a few points on, it could be this one.
Yeah. Then into the deadlift for reps. And last year they did the car deadlift for reps. And I think it may have been one of his first times using that type of kit, especially at that weight against that level of competition. But I expect this year to be a very good event for him.
Yeah, to be honest, I think deadlift for reps is going to be really good for him. His endurance is just improving all the time in terms of deadlift. His lockout power's got better. And, you know, we're training for double figures. It's kind of like what we're looking at. It depends how heavy it ends up being.
Yeah.
But his training videos, he looks very, very good.
And then the shield carry, and this is an event we saw him win at the Rogue Invitational. And, you know, he didn't go max distance at Rogue. He put it down when he thought, yeah, probably no one's going to beat that. He better not do that at Worlds, I imagine, Lozzie.
Unless he gets to go last and he's beaten everyone, he has to go to the absolute limit. But it's an event he can win. Yeah. This is an event he could win in the final for sure.
Max dumbbell. Now, this is something, I think around about the time of the Royal Albert Hall last year, he was saying if he had a weakness, this was probably it. But again, it's something he's improved a lot, isn't it? Definitely
improved, but definitely an event that he could potentially be lower down on the table. We've got some incredible dumbbell pressers at this year's competition, and like I mentioned, overheads are different, and I mentioned that the log medley that we've got, the log ladder in the heats, is really good for him.
Yeah.
This is potentially one of the worst overheads for Mitch, to be quite honest, but the progress is getting better all the time. Our goal is kind of mid-table on this. I think if he can be 5th or above, he's going to then be a threat to win the whole competition. If he's down kind of 6th, 7th, 8th, could cause him more problems. There's a couple,
especially if the finger didn't go well.
Yeah, the fingers is I think that's going to. I think that and this are where Mitch potentially loses some points.
So the truck pull. Now, when he went to us last year, he'd never pulled a truck at all, and he was learning in the yard, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was learning on the job, which is kind of crazy to think
someone could get there without.
But that's not the case this year. Mitch Hooper is going to be much, much better at the truck pull. And last year I watched him without knowing who he was, and I was watching him thinking this guy could be good at truck pulling. He just doesn't know how to pull a truck. Mm-hmm. This year he knows how to pull a truck. His leg endurance is very good. He's got good all-round power. He has a great engine. I think he's going to score good points on this one.
And then finally, it will all be decided on the Atlas stones. Now, he's going to be up against some great stone lifters.
He is. And if he's in a good position, like I've said many times, it just raises that level. His stones keep improving. Does he win the Atlas stones? No, I don't think he does. No. But I think he'll be good enough to get the job done. It's one of those situations, you look at like the last, you look at World's Strongest Man over the years. When someone's in contention to win, they will do a good stone lift. Even I managed to win. Like, I didn't win the stones when I won Europe's, but I was 3rd, I think, or 4th, something like that.
Yeah, which was
guys that really normally I would have been 8th or 9th against.
Yeah,
you just, when you're in that position, you dig that little bit deeper. And some of the guys that might beat you, but they've dropped off the whole competition, by that point they've already done 11 events. Their bodies are battered, and
you're
the
a little
motivation
bit mentally as well, aren't you?
Yeah, so it comes down to really those top 4, and if he's in that top 4, he's going to be fighting hard. I think guys like Tom, Brian Shaw, Trey Mitchell, those guys are great stone lifters, and if they're in that battle, it's not so good. But against anyone else, he's got a chance of beating anyone on the stones.
So there we have it, Lozzie. Quite a different video to his one last year.
Hopefully, yeah. A little bit more to go off. Obviously, we've been lucky enough to travel the last year with Mitch and get to know him really well. And He's just one of those unique athletes that comes along once in a while. He's destined to win World's Strongest Man. Whether it's this year or in a few years, who knows? But he is a contender. In my eyes, definitely a top 5 finisher at this year's Worlds. And obviously, you know, I'd love to see him win. I'd love to see him on the podium.
If he doesn't make the podium, this will be the first one he hasn't made since Worlds last year.
Yeah, and, you know, that could happen. The reality is at World's Strongest Man this year, there is a number of athletes that could win. There is no clear favourite in my eyes this year.
Isn't.
You know, in some years we see like a 2-horse race or one guy that's a clear favourite. I think there's 5 or 6 guys that can all potentially win. And that's why this year's Worlds is exciting. Right, as always, guys, let us know your thoughts on the moose. Do you want to see the World's Strongest Man title go to Canada for the first time? Do you think he can be the first Canadian to win?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
As always, guys, like, share, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time. Stay strong.